the news. It's a new chapter for immigration. Title 42 is in its final hours, with organizations preparing for the chaos expected to follow. A special tree is growing in the Bronx.
Trees are like students. No two are alike. But this one on Fordham University's campus is extra special. I'm Jessica Easthope, and I'll have its story coming up next.
The Holy See is bringing attention to marginalized women in different parts of the world thanks to a new exhibition. Plus this.
She has literally defied every odd out. She's got to be 1 in a billion at this point.
Finally heading home. A resilient baby is leaving the hospital after staying there for over 500 days. I'm Christine Persichetti. Current News starts right now.
The lifting of the Title 42 public health order does not mean our border is open.
Tensions are rising and the clock is ticking. Title 42, a pandemic-era policy to turn away migrants because of COVID concerns, is near its end. And a rush of migrants at the U.S.-Mexico border is expected. Friday is the first full day border agents will not have the same power to turn migrants away as easily. The number of people waiting at the border has surged of late, with tens of thousands trying to cross. This is creating problems for both humanitarians and people looking for a better life for their families. Gloria Pazmino has more.
Es la voluntad de Dios porque voy para mi familia.
Eric Mendoza is breaking down. He faces the possibility of deportation after making the months-long trek from his native Honduras. He says he paid $50 for the set of documents. It's a likely scam many migrants, desperate for answers, are falling prey to.
Porque quiero entrar legal.
He says he wants to be here legally. Just like him, there are thousands more in El Paso.
Why did you leave Venezuela?
Rosaura Rivas says her husband and 4 kids fled violence from Venezuela. They spent the last month at this shelter. She helps out in the kitchen, trying to save money to buy bus tickets to Denver, where they have friends. With thousands of migrants waiting to cross the border, the Opportunity Center for the Homeless in El Paso can barely keep up.
We need to do what's right by these folks. They've gone through so much.
The federal government estimates more than 150,000 migrants are waiting in shelters and on the streets in Mexican states that border the U.S. While thousands have crossed, many more have been apprehended, according to U.S. Customs and Border Protection. Meanwhile, El Paso city officials are working to open up emergency shelters and say the city is at a breaking point.
We want to be able to find a solution to how do we take care of the human person, because they are human beings.
In the meantime, federal officials are trying to discourage migrants from crossing.
Let me be clear. The lifting of the Title 42 public health order does not mean our border is open. In fact, it is the contrary.
Those who are already here wait and do their best with what they have. Others try to stay connected and hopeful, while their families on the other side of a screen are a constant reminder of why they're here. In El Paso, Texas, I'm Gloria Pazmino.
The Department of Homeland Security has emphasized that if people try to sneak into the country after Title 42 expires, they can be banned from re-entry for at least 5 years. And for repeat offenders, those people will be arrested. Church leaders are reaching out to communities to assist in the matter. Bishop Mark Seitz from the Diocese of El Paso, who's the head of the USCCB's Committee on Migration, has a special message for people in Texas.
The immigrants that are coming to the door of our country right now are our lost brothers and sisters. This is the time, El Paso, for us to live up to our reputation of welcome and hospitality. We are already in the process of welcoming. Right now, our diocesan family is opening 4 parish-based shelters, and with your help, we are about to open another one. All of our parishes and priests are working to support the effort by preparing food, by volunteering at one of our shelters, and by praying for the newcomers among us. The next several weeks could be challenging, but we are not alone in this. The Lord is at our side.
Earlier in the week, El Paso City Council extended a state of emergency to help deal with the migrant crisis. Ahead of the expiration, Texas Governor Greg Abbott has already started busing out more migrants, and a group of them were dropped off right in front of Vice President Kamala Harris's home at the U.S. Naval Observatory in D.C. Roughly 50 migrants arrived there Thursday morning. This is the latest series of bus operations by Abbott, who says he's sent 17,000 more migrants to sanctuary cities. That includes more than 5,000 sent to New York. And the city is already prepping for them. Mayor Eric Adams signed an executive order Wednesday that temporarily eases housing requirements for homeless families seeking shelter. The order, which is in effect for 5 days, temporarily ends 3 city laws, including one that requires the city provide families a bed by 4 a.m. if they arrive at an intake facility by 10 p.m. Cities and towns all along the southern border are getting ready. The city of Laredo says it received around $3 million in federal funds to help with a possible surge, and plans are underway to help the migrants when they get there.
Very similar to preparing for a hurricane.
The mayor of Laredo, Texas, says they are bracing for a possible surge of migrants. On Wednesday, he, along with officials from Webb County, met with the operators of 2 shelters that house migrants.
Our daily capacity is about 1,000, 1,200. Our overnight stay is about 500 people per shelter. In other words, 500 us, 500 Catholic Charities.
Catholic Charities and Holding Institute addressed how they're preparing for the influx.
We are working at opening up another shelter. We're trying to collaborate with the city to help us do that. And when that's done, then it'll be operational.
In 2022, both centers reportedly helped over 100,000 migrants. From January to May of this year, they helped over 12,000. If there's an overflow of migrants, Emergency Management Coordinator Chief Guillermo Hurd says they're working on an action plan to house them.
We have shelters identified for certain events that we have, hurricanes, evacuations as such. So we do have the Haynes Rec Center. They're mostly rec centers. They're city facilities. Now we also know that in order if we get to that plan that we have to open up a shelter, these shelters are currently being used by our community. Summer's about to start and they have a lot of programs. So we do understand if we use a shelter, we're going to use those resources and we're going to have to use them somewhere else. So that's why this is a last resort.
Or they'll bus the migrants out if needed. As for safety, the police say there are officers at both centers. And when it comes to health concerns, each center can provide migrants with over-the-counter medication if needed, and they have COVID testing available as well.
We provide them with at-home testing kits to ensure that COVID-19 is still on their radar. We do provide them with information such as infographics to pass out to these individuals so that they're aware of how to practice good hygiene and sanitation in their areas.
Laredo's mayor said one of the biggest concerns is how to treat migrant children who might arrive with an illness, as there are no pediatric hospitals in the city. Pope Francis has released a message for migrants. The statement is for the 109th World Day of Migrants and Refugees in September and focuses on the theme, free to choose whether to migrate or to stay. The Holy Father spoke about eliminating the root causes of migration, but also on welcoming migrants when they do choose to migrate. He says in part, even as we work to ensure that in every case migration is the fruit of a free decision, we are called to show maximum respect for the dignity of each migrant. This entails accompanying and managing waves of migration as best we can, constructing bridges and not walls, expanding channels for a safe and regular migration. Federal advisors have voted in favor of selling birth control pills over the counter. 2 Food and Drug Administration committees are supporting selling the pill Opill without a prescription. The vote will clear the way for the FDA to approve the sale of birth control pills over the counter. The Catholic Church opposes all artificial forms of contraception. The mom of the 6-year-old boy who allegedly shot his teacher during class is taking responsibility for the incident. Deja Taylor apologizing to the teacher who was shot in the hand and chest while she sat in her 1st grade classroom at Richneck Elementary in Virginia. Police say Taylor did purchase the gun legally, and her lawyer claims she believed her gun was secured on a high closet shelf with a trigger lock. Taylor faces charges of felony neglect and reckless storage of a firearm. They say it's New York City's oldest tree on record, and at 280, that's no small feat. The American elm that stood tall on Fordham University's Rose Hill campus is most likely a century older than the school itself. But just like its Jesuit mission, Currents News' Jessica Easthope tells us efforts to keep the tree alive are rooted in faith.
1836.
Steve Farrelly has seen a lot of trees.
It's still around 78 inches in diameter.
This one is by far his favorite.
I love this tree. This one in particular is really special just because of its size and its history.
Steve is the certified master arborist in charge of keeping this nearly 300-year-old American elm tree healthy. It lives on Fordham University's Rose Hill campus, but this was its home long before there was a school. Ralph Rivera says it's seen every student come and go.
It's a center point when you think of the history of Fordham, of where it started, where it's just all farmlands and new students come, they leave, alumni, but it still keeps, it's very deep rooted within Fordham.
The tree is 140 feet tall and has a canopy spread of 120 feet. Here at Fordham, they say it's the oldest tree on record in New York City. This is a picture of it fully mature in 1864. The tree has been through a lot over the years, including an outbreak of Dutch elm disease that killed more than 40 million others across the country. But this one survived. Now every other year, Steve treats it with a fungicide to keep it alive.
We drill holes in.
And just like the school's Jesuit mission, care for the tree is rooted in faith.
You know, we stand for sustainability for them, and the Catholic Jesuit school does the same thing.
Cura personalis, right? Care for oneself is care for others. What we put into this, we hope that as a student can lay out here in the shade and just be whole.
The men say they've become stewards of something that was here long before they were, and they're hoping that with their care, it will be here long after they're gone. At Fordham University in the Bronx, Jessica Easthope, Currents News.
Wow, 280 years old. Crazy. There's a lot more news headed your way. A parishioner's life-saving gift to his pastor, a new kidney. Plus, the faces of marginalized women are on display in a new Vatican exhibit that you can see right now. And after 500 days in the hospital, this little baby overcame the odds and is coming home. A Diocese of Brooklyn priest is grateful for his parish community. It's because of them that he's getting a life-saving gift, a new kidney. And it's not the first time he's been touched by their generosity. Father Jim Cunningham's surgery is actually scheduled for today, Thursday, May 11th. Currents News' Jessica Easthope caught up with him in Bell Harbor weeks ahead of his surgery.
13 people die every single day while waiting for a life-saving kidney donation. Father Jim Cunningham isn't going to be one of them. He has been cleared for a transplant and is waiting for surgery. The organ is coming from Mike Coughlin, his friend and parishioner at St. Francis de Sales in Bell Harbor. Mike has lived a life of service. Inspired by members of his own family to make this kind of sacrifice, he was already planning to donate.
The surgeon's doing the hard part. I'm just going to fall asleep and wake up. So I don't know if it's service. I think it's just an easy way to hopefully save lives.
But this isn't Father Jim's first kidney transplant, and Mike isn't the first friend to go under the knife for him. This is Father Jim's second chance at life.
For people to do this, you get a second chance at life once, and then to get it twice. I don't take this for granted.
Father Jim was first diagnosed with late-stage kidney disease in 2015, and in 2016, his good friend, firefighter Pat Nash, donated his kidney without hesitation. This time around, when the new kidney started to fail after Father Jim got COVID twice and then MRSA, the parish council at St. Francis de Sales circulated this flyer to try and find him a new donor.
It was an overwhelming response. The coordinator said to me, "Who are you?" She said, "We've gotten so many requests."
And now Mike and Father Jim will make the swap.
After a week, they said it's a perfect match. I said, oh, perfect. All the signs were there to donate to Father Jim.
Mike and Father Jim share much more than the same blood type.
If it was a stranger, I'd want to help, but somebody like Father Jim, we have to help him.
I will do everything that I can to make sure that I take care of myself and serve to the best of my ability.
The two men share their faith. In Belle Harbor, Jessica Easthope, Currents News.
Father Jim also came on Currents News to talk about his operation. He explained why his body rejected his first donated kidney and why Catholics should consider becoming organ donors themselves.
The doctors felt that because of COVID, I had COVID twice, and that compromised so many organ transplants. I did not have strong cases of COVID, but I did have it twice, and it started causing a blockage in the kidney. And then the blockage they tried to fix. I had surgery 4 times in the summer, and they thought they were successful, but unfortunately it wasn't successful because things were starting to shut down. And then on top of that, while I was in the hospital in September, I contracted MRSA. So once that happened, they, tried their best, but they said to me that, these MRSA is usually something that you get in the hospital. And unfortunately, I had a tube, and the tube became infected, and so that's basically how they explained it. I mean, I was doing well, and but unfortunately that happened.
So you can't catch a break. I mean, you would think it would be easy to get an organ donation, especially in New York. It has some of the best hospitals in the world, but that's not the case, right?
It's not the case. There's many people waiting for an organ, for a live donor, and that's the challenge. People wait on lists for years. If you have somebody that comes forward that you find yourself, then you're a very lucky person. And I am certainly a very lucky person.
Now, you mentioned a living donor. Some Catholics are curious about organ donation. What is church teaching on living donors?
Well, church teaching is that if we can support life in every stage, then the church is absolutely supportive of organ donation. We only need one kidney to live. Many people have only one and live a full and complete life. So if we could, if we're able to assist somebody else who, doesn't have a kidney that works or has a kidney that's failing, we should always try to do whatever we can to assist them in their time of need. And I've been lucky to have not one friend, but 2 friends.
That was Father Jim Cunningham, Associate Pastor of St. Francis de Sales Church. If you want to enroll as an organ or tissue donor in New York State, just go to donatelife.ny.gov. It's easy to say you'll go to your child's next game or next dance recital, but the next time isn't always guaranteed. For one father in Iowa who's terminally ill with brain cancer, a community came together to give his family memories that will last forever. In an effort to make the most of the time he has left, a dance studio moved their recital date up early from June so that Steven Stepanek can watch his daughter dance. His 6-year-old was all smiles as family and friends cheered on the children. Steven's wife, Brittany, says she couldn't be more appreciative of what everyone did for her family.
Tonight's just an example of gifts that they've given us, memories that we can keep forever. And so we're so thankful that all of these people have gone out of their way just to do one more act for us to make sure that we have a moment that we can keep.
She went on to say that moments like this are surreal because there may not be many more in the future, but that it means so much to the family to have their community behind them. The Vatican is showing its support for marginalized women around the world. A new photograph exhibit called Women's Cry puts their challenges but also their strengths on display. Kelsey Gussie has more on this special presentation.
The Vatican hosts the exhibit Women's Cry, a series of photographs on display in the Bernini Colonnade in St. Peter's Square. It features marginalized women in different parts of the world, from the Amazon to Bangladesh, Turkey to Togo, Greece to the Ukrainian border. Featuring 8 international photographers, these 26 images of women portray their challenges, but also their strength, the discrimination they have suffered, but also their resilience. In a word, their loneliness. The World Union of Catholic Women's Organizations wants to showcase women who are seemingly invisible in their society. Each of the girls and women featured has a story to tell. How is it possible that so many women in the world today feel like the church does not love them, does not stand by them as Jesus did? What is certain is that this exhibition within the colonnade of St. Peter's Square is a sign of how the church today does not leave them alone, how the church today wants to embrace all women in the world, believers and non-believers alike, and make them visible. The exhibition is part of the Emotions for Change project, an initiative inspired by the encyclical Fratelli Tutti and promoted by the Dicastery for Communication. One of the photographers included in the exhibition is Asaf Oud Daoula, a National Geographic and Forbes Award winner.
That was Kelsey Gussie reporting. Want to check out the Women's Cry exhibit for yourself? There's still time for you to book a flight. It'll be open through the 28th of May, so you better hustle. Still to come on Currents News, we'll introduce you to the newest and furriest member of the Suffolk County Sheriff's Office, a special job she's taking on coming up. Plus this.
We knew that she was coming out with some defects.
But what this Michigan couple did not know was that their baby was about to defy the odds. Take a look at this new recruit. Happy to lend a paw. Luna is the Suffolk County Sheriff's Office's first therapy dog. The English Cream Retriever is there to help the Long Island officers deal with mental health concerns. The pup was named after a fallen FDNY firefighter, Billy Moon, who died during a training exercise in December. His family was there to welcome Luna. A baby in Michigan is finally being welcomed home after spending 511 days in the hospital. Charlie Gatewood has been fighting for her life and defying the odds, and now her parents are giving back. Erin Bowling has their story.
Born with 8 physical defects, Charlie Gatewood has been through more than 10 surgeries in her 17 months of life.
So we knew that she was coming out with some defects.
However, nothing could have prepared the Gatewoods for what the doctors discovered after she was born.
She has literally defied every odd out there. She's got to be 1 in a billion at this point.
She has 4 heart defects total, along with many other complications from her life-saving surgeries.
From what we've been told, it's not genetic.
Yeah, we had all the genetic testing run, and nothing came back showing any genetic markers.
Just a fluke.
We believe she's here for a reason.
And after 511 days in the hospital, her parents wanted to find a way to give back.
All throughout Charlie's journey, they would take teddy bears and they would do whatever was happening medically with Charlie on the teddy bear to help her understand.
They started Snuggles from Charlie and were able to donate 1,600 stuffed animals to C.S. Mott Children's Hospital in Ann Arbor for other families with young children in the hospital.
It's our intention to do it every year.
They're passing forward a lesson they learned from Charlie.
She has been on the cusp of leaving us for far too many times, only to prove us all wrong and keep smiling.
Even with more surgeries ahead, her parents say she never stopped smiling. They hope to pass that joy along to others in need.
The sweetest smile. That was Erin Bowling reporting. A GoFundMe has been created to help the Gatewood family with medical expenses. If you'd like to contribute, just head to GoFundMe.com and search Medical Crib for Charlie. And that is Currents News. I'm Christine Persichetti. Thank you for joining us because we are putting your faith in the news. Hope to see you again next time.